Welcome back again. Today we're going to look at dividing a polynomial by a monomial, which is very similar to what we did in the last lesson, which was multiplying a polynomial by a monomial. Here, though, we don't call it the distributive property. We don't really have a name for it. But in the same way that we distributed, we have to divide all the terms of the polynomial by the monomial. So I'm not just dividing the first term. I'm not dividing part of it. I'm dividing each part, each term, by that bottom number. So for example, here I have 12x minus 4 divided by 4. So I've drawn these little arrows saying basically I need to divide 12x by 4, which I wrote over here, and I need to divide 4 by 4. And then I'm keeping all of those signs, and this is the same here. Okay? So I'm just doing two different divisions, kind of the way I did two different multiplications. So 12 divided by 4 is 3, 3x. The x is left on top because there's nothing underneath. So 3x, 4 divided by 4, anything divided by itself is 1. So I wind up with 3x minus 1. So very similar to what we've been doing, except now we're doing it with division. So again, I'll have a few examples for you over here to take down and we'll work on. Okay? So again, remember what this means is I'm dividing each term by the bottom monomial. So what I'm saying here is I have 28. Sorry, I wrote that really poorly. I'm not big enough to see. Y squared divided by 7y plus 14 divided by 7y. So I'm just doing the two different divisions to get my answer. So 28 divided by 7 leaves me with 4. Y squared divided by y leaves me with y. This is the one where we sometimes get confused. You'll notice there's a y here on the bottom. I don't have a y on the top, which basically means I have a y to the 0 power. So if you think about what 0 minus 1 would give me, I'm going to wind up with a negative exponent here. So if there's no y term on the top, just know that whatever's on the bottom becomes a negative exponent. So 14 is divisible by 7 two times. This became y to the negative 1 because I had basically y to the 0, which is 1, divided by y. So it became y to the negative 1. And if you'll remember, when we talked about negative exponents, we write negative exponents as a fraction and they go underneath. So all I'm saying is I could also rewrite this as 2 over y if we wanted to leave it in fraction form. That would work as well. I'm going to leave it with a negative exponent though. All right. So again, those are rules that if they're confusing you, you can always go back and rewatch that exponent video where we talk about negative exponents because they can get a little bit confusing if you're not real familiar with them. So feel free to go back and rewatch anything that confuses you. All right. Here, what I notice is rather than doing three different divisions, I notice I have like terms up here. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is simplify this by combining my like terms. 18n minus 3n leaves me with 15n. Now I just have two different division problems to do instead of doing three different ones. So if I have like terms on the top for the bottom, I want to combine those first just to make the process easier. So then what I'm saying is I have 15n divided by 3n plus 6n squared divided by 3n. So again, we're just going through the way that we've been dividing monomials. That was a couple lessons ago. So 15 divided by 3 gives me 5. N divided by n. That's going to leave me with n to the 0, which is 1, which means I don't need to write it because 5 times 1 is 5. So I'm just left with 5 here. 6 divided by 3 leaves me with 2. N squared divided by n leaves me with an n. So I have 5 plus 2n. Now we could have gone through and done these divisions. I would have wound up with 6n minus, I would have wound up with 6 minus 1, which when I combined would have given me 5. But it's just easier to combine them in the first place and save yourself that step. All right. Over here, we're just dividing by the variables. So I'm just taking both of these. 4b squared, I want to divide that by b. 7b, I want to divide that by b. Okay? So this would be a 1b. 4 divided by 1 is itself. b squared divided by b leaves me with a b. 7 divided by 1 is 7. B divided by b is 1. Basically, it cancels because 7 times 1 is 7. So I'm just going to write it this way. 4b minus 7. Okay. Here I have a trinomial that's divided by a monomial, so I'm just going to do three different divisions. So I have negative 12x squared divided by, and notice this is a negative 3x. So that's going to change my signs here after I do this. X to the 7th divided by negative 3x. 3x to the 5th divided by negative 3x. So then we're just going to go through and we're going to do each of those divisions. So negative 12 divided by negative 3 leaves me with a positive 4. X squared divided by x leaves me with an x. 9 divided by negative 3 is going to make negative 3. So rather than writing plus a negative, I'm just going to write the minus 3. You can write plus a negative, but I'm just going to stick with writing it as negative because it's the same thing. Keep that in mind. X to the 7th divided by x leaves me with x to the 6th. 3 divided by negative 3 would be a negative 1. Here I have a negative sign already. Minus a negative is the same as adding a positive, so I'm just going to change that sign to a plus. Because writing minus a negative is not the standard form. It's not the way you would usually want to write it. So I'm already just going to change that to the plus because I have minus a negative. I know that changes to a plus. And again, those are your integer rules. You can always go back and rewatch those videos to refresh your memory. So the 1, I'm left with a 1 here. X to the 5th divided by x is x to the 4th. You'll notice I didn't write the 1 because it's implied when I say x to the 4th. So there are a few extra things that you don't always have to write in math. So just keep that in mind where there's implied 1s and what that means when you're multiplying and dividing. Also what it means when you have signs, positives and negatives, and how those work together. Because once you realize how those interchange, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to rewrite any of those problems and kind of work those out in your head. Again, if you have questions, you know where to post them. If you're confused, feel free to rewatch the video. Have a good night.